Emily stood at the grand entrance of the ballroom, her simple lavender dress brushing against her ankles. The chandeliers above sparkled like 1,000 stars, casting golden light across the marble floors. Guests in designer gowns and tailored suits laughed, sipped champagne, and whispered among themselves. This was the wedding of her cousin Isabel, an event the family had been preparing for months. Everyone looked perfect, except Emily. Her hair was neatly tied back, her shoes were plain, and her dress was the kind you'd find in an average store, not from a luxury boutique. She had stitched it herself, adding tiny embroidered flowers near the sleeves, hoping it would look at least respectable. But in a room full of diamonds and silks, Emily appeared invisible. Worse, she appeared out of place. The whispers began as soon as she walked in. "Is that really what she's wearing?" one aunt murmured, hiding her smirk behind a glass of wine. "She looks like she came straight from the village." Another cousin snickered. "Poor thing," someone else added. "No wonder no one notices her." Emily lowered her eyes, pretending she hadn't heard. She had grown used to these remarks. For years, ever since her mother passed away, she had been treated like an outsider. Her father had left long ago, leaving Emily in the care of relatives who never truly accepted her. She was given a roof, yes, but not warmth. She was fed, but never loved. Tonight, at Isabel's wedding, the cruelty was sharper. Everyone sparkled like gemstones, while Emily was treated like a dull stone that didn't belong in the display. At the reception hall, Isabel stood in her designer gown, a masterpiece of ivory lace with a glittering veil. Guests swarmed around her, showering compliments, clicking pictures, and praising her beauty. Beside her stood her fiancé, Alexander, looking proud and regal. When Emily walked closer to congratulate Isabel, the bride barely glanced at her. "Oh, Emily," Isabel said flatly, eyes scanning her from head to toe. "You came." "Yes," Emily said softly, forcing a smile. "I wanted to wish you happiness." Isabel's lips curled into a smirk. "That's sweet of you, though maybe next time, try something more festive." Her gaze lingered on Emily's dress, dripping with disdain. The guests nearby chuckled. Emily felt her cheeks burn, but she didn't reply. She simply stepped back, disappearing into the crowd, holding her small clutch tightly against her chest. As the evening progressed, Emily sat alone at a corner table. She wasn't invited to dance. No one brought her into conversations. Plates of food passed her by, but no one asked if she had eaten. She watched from afar as laughter filled the air, music echoed, and people twirled on the dance floor under the golden lights. She remembered her mother in moments like this. Her mother, who always told her, "Emily, kindness is your crown. Never let their cruelty take it away." But tonight, Emily's crown felt heavy. It felt invisible. Her uncle, Isabel's father, noticed her sitting quietly and walked over. Not with kindness, but with irritation. "Emily," he said sharply, "don't just sit there looking lost. Go help the servers in the back. At least make yourself useful." The words struck deep. Useful. That's all she was to them. A helper, a servant, not family. "Yes, uncle," Emily whispered, rising from her chair. She followed the servers into the kitchen, where she spent the next hour refilling trays of appetizers and pouring drinks, her hands trembling each time she stepped into the glittering hall. Guests took the food without looking at her face, as if she were invisible. At one point, a group of cousins stopped her near the dance floor. "Emily," one cousin giggled, "don't trip with those glasses, okay? We wouldn't want the bride's big night ruined because you couldn't carry a tray." They laughed as if it were the funniest joke of the night. Emily forced a small smile and walked away, her chest heavy with humiliation. As midnight approached, the music slowed, and the announcement came for the couple's first dance. Isabel and Alexander moved gracefully to the center, the crowd parting around them. The spotlight followed, illuminating their perfect smiles. Cameras flashed, guests clapped, and the air filled with admiration. Emily stood at the edge, watching. Her heart ached, not because she envied Isabel's love, but because she realized she had never truly been seen by anyone. She was always the shadow in the room, always overlooked, always mocked. She closed her eyes for a moment, whispering to herself, "Someday, they'll see me, not this way, not as someone beneath them, but as someone who belongs." She didn't know that someday was closer than she imagined. Just as the music ended, the grand doors of the ballroom opened again. A hush fell across the crowd as an older man entered, tall, distinguished, wearing a perfectly tailored suit. His presence commanded attention instantly. His salt and pepper hair was neatly combed, his stride confident, and his eyes sharp as they scanned the room. Whispers erupted among the guests. "Isn't that Mr. Harrington? The billionaire? What's he doing here? He rarely attends events like these." Emily froze. She had seen his face in magazines, on television interviews, in business headlines. Richard Harrington, one of the wealthiest and most powerful men in the city. The crowd parted respectfully as he walked inside. But instead of heading to Isabel and Alexander, he paused. His eyes swept the room, then suddenly locked on Emily. Emily's heart skipped. Why was he looking at her? She shrank back, unsure of what to do, but he began walking straight toward her. Each step echoed, drawing curious stares from every corner of the hall. When he reached her, he stopped. The entire ballroom was silent, waiting. "Emily," he said in a deep, commanding voice that carried across the room. "Why are you standing here serving drinks?" Gasps rippled through the guests. Her relatives exchanged confused, horrified glances. Emily's lips parted in shock. "You know me?" she whispered. Richard Harrington's gaze softened, though his voice remained firm. "Of course I know you. You are my daughter." The room exploded in whispers, gasps, and stunned silence. Isabel dropped her champagne glass, her face draining of color. Emily's uncle staggered, struggling to process what he had just heard. But Emily stood frozen, her world spinning. "Daughter, how? What did this mean?" In that single moment, the girl mocked for her simple dress became the center of everything, and nothing, not even Isabel's grand wedding, would ever be remembered the same way again. The silence in the ballroom was heavy, almost suffocating. Every eye was fixed on Emily and the billionaire who had just called her his daughter. Guests whispered furiously, their disbelief rippling like fire through the crowd. Isabel clutched her husband's arm, her lips trembling with outrage. Emily's heart pounded in her chest. Her throat felt dry as dust. She wanted to speak but couldn't. The weight of Richard Harrington's words pressed on her chest like a mountain. His daughter. Her uncle was the first to break the silence. He stepped forward, his voice trembling but defensive. "Mr. Harrington, there must be some mistake. This girl, she's our niece. She has no father. Her father abandoned her years ago." Richard's sharp eyes fixed on him. "Her father never abandoned her. Her father is standing right here." Gasps filled the hall again. Cameras and phones lifted discreetly as guests tried to capture the moment that was quickly becoming more dramatic than the wedding itself. Emily whispered, her voice shaking, You're my father." Richard's stern features softened as he looked at her. "Yes, Emily. I should have come for you earlier, but circumstances, obligations, kept me away. I've searched for you for years, and now I find you here, treated like a servant by people who should have cherished you." Her uncle's face turned red with rage. "That is not true. We gave her a home. We raised her. You used her." Richard cut in, his voice thundering through the hall. "You treated her like less than family. Do not lie to me. I can see it in her eyes." Emily's hands trembled. The room blurred for a moment as tears filled her eyes. Memories of years of neglect, of cold meals, of being ordered to clean while her cousins enjoyed luxuries, all came rushing back. And now, here was a man claiming to be her father. The man she had imagined when she cried alone at night. The man she believed had abandoned her. Isabel suddenly found her voice. "This is absurd. Dad, tell him. Tell him Emily can't be his daughter. She's nothing but—" Richard turned sharply, his glare freezing her words. "Be very careful, young lady. The girl you mock is the true heiress of everything I own. If you think tonight is your celebration, you are mistaken. Tonight belongs to Emily." The hall erupted again in whispers. Isabel's face twisted with fury. Her perfect wedding, her perfect spotlight, had been stolen in seconds. Emily shook her head, unable to process. "I don't understand. How is this possible? My mother, she never told me." Richard stepped closer, his voice low, but the entire hall could hear the weight of his words. "Your mother was the love of my life. Circumstances forced us apart, but she gave me you. I didn't know where she had gone after everything. I only discovered the truth when it was too late." His voice broke slightly. "When she died, you were hidden from me." Emily gasped, her knees weak. She remembered her mother's last words on her deathbed. "Emily, no matter what they say, you are not alone. One day, the truth will find you." She never understood what it meant. Until now. The crowd murmured louder, some recording, some too shocked to even blink. The wedding had turned into a storm of secrets and revelations. Isabel's groom, Alexander, cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable with the scene. "Perhaps we should—" "No!" Isabel snapped, panic flashing in her eyes. "This is my wedding, and I won't let her steal it." She spun toward Emily, her voice dripping with venom. "You think a simple dress and some pretty words make you special. You're nothing, Emily, nothing." Richard's voice cut like steel. "That's enough." He stepped protectively in front of Emily, his towering presence silencing the hall again. "No one insults my daughter." Emily stared at him, her mind spinning. Daughter. The word felt strange, foreign, yet comforting. Could it be true? After years of loneliness, after being treated like a burden, could she really belong to someone powerful, someone who actually wanted her? Her uncle, desperate, shouted, "You can't just claim her. She's been with us all her life. She owes us everything." Richard turned his gaze on him, ice cold. "And you'll answer for how you've treated her. Don't think your lies will stand against me. From this day forward, Emily leaves with me. She is no longer under your control." The declaration was final. The guests erupted in chaos, half in disbelief, half in awe. Isabel stood trembling, her face streaked with ruined makeup, her wedding now nothing but an afterthought. Emily's legs felt weak. She whispered, almost to herself, "Why now? Why tonight?" Richard looked at her with something she had never seen before. Guilt and love tangled together. Because fate chose this night, Emily. Because tonight, the world needed to know who you really are. No longer ignored. No longer invisible. You are Emily Harrington, my daughter, and the heiress to everything I have built. The words crashed into her like a tidal wave. She wasn't the servant in the corner anymore. She wasn't the poor orphan mocked for her dress. She was the daughter of one of the most powerful men in the country. And for the first time in her life, Emily felt seen. But she also knew this was just the beginning. The ballroom buzzed like a hive that had just been struck. Guests whispered, phones recorded, and reporters outside were already catching wind of the scandal. The wedding was no longer about Isabel and Alexander. It was about Emily Harrington, the billionaire's hidden daughter. Emily's heart raced as Richard placed a protective arm around her shoulders. For the first time, she wasn't standing alone, yet the weight of hundreds of stares pressed against her like fire. She wanted to shrink, but Richard's steady presence kept her rooted. Isabel broke the silence first. Her voice was shrill, breaking under the pressure. This is insane. She's lying. He's lying. Emily is nothing more than a charity case. We kept around out of pity. Richard's eyes flashed dangerously. Charity? You call years of unpaid labor, neglect, and humiliation charity. His voice thundered across the hall. No, Isabel. What you did was cruelty, and now the world knows. Emily's uncle stepped forward, his face red with anger. You can't just barge in here and destroy everything. This is Isabel's night. You're humiliating us in front of everyone. Richard's lips curled into a cold smile. Humiliation? You've built your pride on lies and greed. Tonight, you are not being humiliated. You are being exposed. The crowd gasped. Some nodded in agreement. Others whispered. It's true. I've seen how they treat Emily. The truth had always been visible, but no one dared to speak it until now. Emily's cousin Clara, who had often joined Isabel in mocking her, stepped out timidly. Is it really true? Emily is your daughter. Richard looked at her firmly. Yes, and she deserves every ounce of respect that you denied her. Emily's hands trembled. Her mind swirled with disbelief, but deep inside, she felt a flicker of strength she had never known before. For years she had been silent, enduring every insult, every task, every dismissal. But now, silence was no longer her prison. It was her weapon. She took a step forward, her voice shaking, but steady enough to echo in the hall. All my life, I was told I was nothing, that I didn't belong, that I should be grateful just to exist in someone else's shadow. But tonight I see the truth. I was never the burden. I was never the mistake. I am Emily Harrington, and I am not ashamed anymore. The hall erupted with murmurs, some gasping in admiration, others stunned by her sudden courage. Isabel's face twisted with fury, her perfect facade crumbling before everyone's eyes. Alexander, her groom, finally spoke, his voice low and awkward. Isabel, maybe we should shut up. Isabel hissed, her voice venomous. You don't understand. She's ruining everything. She turned toward Emily, eyes blazing. Do you really think you belong in this world? You'll never be one of us. You're just a nobody in a borrowed story. Richard's voice cut through her words like a blade. Enough. You forget whose world this is, Isabel. You and your family will answer for every cruel word, every injustice. Emily doesn't need to prove herself to you. From tonight onward, she is the rightful heiress to my empire. Emily's breath caught. Heiress. The word sounded unreal. All her life she had struggled for scraps of dignity, and now the weight of unimaginable power rested on her shoulders. She wasn't sure if she was ready, but she knew she wanted to try. Guests began to shift, some walking up to Emily, congratulating her cautiously, others trying to get closer to Richard, eager to show respect. The tide was turning. The ignored girl in the corner was now the center of the universe. But with every congratulatory word, Emily saw Isabel's face darken with envy. The jealousy that had simmered for years now burned openly. Isabel clenched her fists, her voice shaking with rage. This isn't over. You think you've won, Emily. You've stolen my night, but you'll never steal my life. I'll make sure of it. Her words sent a chill down Emily's spine. She knew Isabel's cruelty too well. This wasn't a warning. It was a promise. Richard sensed the tension and leaned toward Emily. Come with me. You don't need to stay here any longer. Emily hesitated, her eyes flicking to the glittering chandeliers. The tables filled with guests. The wedding cake now forgotten. Just hours ago, she had been invisible, mocked for her simple dress. And now, she was walking away with the man who claimed her as his daughter. Her life forever changed. As they left the hall, whispers chased her. Some were filled with admiration, others with jealousy, but Emily didn't look back. For the first time, she wasn't walking in someone else's shadow. She was stepping into her own light. That night, as the limousine carried her away, Emily pressed her forehead against the window. The city lights blurred into streaks of gold and silver. Her heart was heavy with questions, but her soul felt lighter than ever before. Richard sat beside her, his expression unreadable, but his presence steady. After a long silence, Emily finally asked, "Why me? Why now?" Richard's eyes softened. "Because, Emily, I was searching for you, and fate brought me here tonight. Maybe I was too late to give you the childhood you deserved, but I promise, I will give you the future you were always meant to have." Tears welled in Emily's eyes. For the first time, the word family didn't feel like a chain. It felt like a gift, but as she closed her eyes, Isabel's furious face haunted her thoughts. Emily knew this wasn't the end. This was only the beginning of a battle, one that would test her strength, her courage, and her heart. Emily woke up the next morning in a bedroom that didn't feel real. The soft silk sheets, the carved wooden furniture, the chandeliers. It was the Harrington estate, her new home. For years she had slept on a narrow bed in a dusty corner of her uncle's house. Now she had a room fit for royalty. But instead of joy, Emily felt a strange heaviness. This wasn't just comfort, it was responsibilities. Downstairs, Richard was already in the study, surrounded by files and newspapers. The headlines screamed across the front pages. Billionaire announces secret daughter at society wedding. Isabel Thompson, humiliated as cousin claims inheritance. Emily froze. She had expected whispers, but seeing her face printed in glossy magazines was overwhelming. Richard looked up from his desk and smiled warmly. "Good morning, Emily. The world knows who you are now." Emily hesitated, her voice trembling. "I don't know if I'm ready for this, Father." The word father still felt strange on her tongue. Richard walked over and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You don't need to be ready all at once. You just need to be yourself. That's enough." Emily wanted to believe him, but deep inside, fear gnawed at her. She knew Isabel. She knew envy was not something Isabel let go of easily. Across the city, Isabel sat in her wedding gown, now crumpled and stained, her makeup smeared from tears of rage. Her mother tried to console her, but Isabel shoved her away. "She stole everything!" Isabel screamed, smashing a vase against the wall. "My wedding, my future, my respect, all because of that pathetic girl." Her mother whispered nervously, "Darling, maybe it's best if we move on." "Move on?" Isabel's eyes blazed. "No, I'll destroy her. She'll regret ever stepping into my world." At that moment, Isabel's fiancé, Alexander, walked in, his tie loose, his face pale. "Isabel, maybe we should slow down. The press is everywhere. People are saying terrible things. Let them talk." Isabel hissed, "When I'm finished, Emily won't just lose everything. She'll wish she was never born." Her voice was cold, venom dripping from every word. Isabel wasn't broken. She was sharpening herself into a weapon. Back at the Harrington estate, Richard introduced Emily to the staff and associates of the Harrington Empire. Everyone greeted her with respect, though she could feel the curiosity behind their polite smiles. "She's the heiress now," Richard announced firmly. "Treat her as such." For the first time, Emily was sitting in meetings, her voice heard, her presence acknowledged. But every step forward felt like stepping onto thin ice. She was new to this world of wealth and power, and she could sense the doubt in people's eyes. That evening, Emily sat in her room, staring at the photo frame she had carried for years, the one of her and her late mother, smiling. "Mom," she whispered, "I don't know if I can do this, but I'll try. For you." The first strike days later, at a charity gala hosted by the Harrington Foundation, Emily walked in, wearing a graceful silver gown. For once, people admired her, not for her wealth, but for her quiet elegance. Cameras flashed, guests applauded, and then Isabel appeared. She was dressed in black, her presence commanding, her smile sharp like a blade. Gasps filled the room as she marched toward Emily. "Well, well," Isabel said loudly, ensuring everyone heard. The maid turned princess. "How charming." Emily stiffened. "Isabel, please don't do this here." But Isabel's voice grew louder. "Why not? Shouldn't everyone know the truth? You think she's a Harrington? She's nothing but a fraud. My uncle was fooled by a desperate girl looking for money and attention." The crowd erupted in whispers. Reporters scribbled furiously. Emily's chest tightened. She wanted to shout back, but her voice caught in her throat. For a moment, she felt like the same helpless girl again. Then Richard's voice cut through the chaos. "Enough, Isabel." His tone was ice cold. "If you continue this, I'll ensure you and your family never set foot in these circles again." Isabel froze, but her eyes burned with hate. She gave Emily one last venomous glare and stormed out. The gala continued, but Emily couldn't shake the trembling in her hands. Isabel wasn't done. This was only the beginning, a new strength later. That night, Richard found Emily sitting alone on the balcony, tears in her eyes. "I don't belong here," Emily whispered. "Everyone looks at me like I'm a mistake." Richard knelt beside her. "Emily, listen to me. Power doesn't come from wealth. It comes from how you rise when others try to drag you down. Isabel will do everything to break you, but you must stand tall." Emily wiped her tears, breathing deeply. In that moment, she made a silent promise to herself. She would not run anymore. She would learn, she would fight, and she would prove that she was more than Isabel's shadow. Across the city, Isabel sat in a dimly lit room, scrolling through her phone. Every post, every article, every photo praised Emily, calling her the hidden heiress. Isabel's hands shook with fury. "No," she muttered. "This is not her story. It's mine." She opened her laptop and began typing. Messages, rumors, stories, anything to tarnish Emily's name. Isabel was about to launch a storm, one that would shake Emily's world again. And as the night deepened, Emily stood on the balcony of the Harrington estate, unaware of the war that was already beginning. This wasn't just about inheritance anymore. It was about survival. The storm began quietly. Rumors spread online, articles accusing Emily of lying about her identity, claiming she had forged documents, whispering that she wasn't really Richard Harrington's daughter. Within days, Emily's photos appeared on gossip blogs with cruel captions, "From rags to riches," or "A scam." Did the Harrington heiress fool the world? Emily felt the weight of the whispers everywhere she went. At restaurants, people stared. At business meetings, associates spoke with hesitation. The doubt was suffocating. One night, she sat with Richard in his study, her voice breaking. "Father, what if they're right? What if I can't survive this world?" Richard looked at her firmly. "Emily, listen to me. Isabel thinks power comes from lies and appearances, but true strength comes from truth. We have nothing to hide, and now we will prove it." The evidence. Richard called in his most trusted lawyer, Mr. Clark, who had been with the family for decades. Together, they compiled proof: Emily's birth certificate, old photographs of Richard with her mother, letters he had written years ago, acknowledging Emily's existence. When Emily saw the letters, her hands trembled. He always thought of me." Richard's eyes softened. "I never stopped thinking of you. Circumstances kept us apart, but you were always mine." Tears filled Emily's eyes, but for the first time in weeks, she felt a spark of hope. Isabel's last attempt. Meanwhile, Isabel wasn't done. She arranged a press conference at a luxury hotel, inviting reporters with the promise of exposing the real Emily. Standing at the podium, she smirked for the cameras. "The so-called heiress is nothing but a liar. She manipulated my uncle during a vulnerable time. She doesn't belong in our family. I have proof." But before she could continue, the doors burst open. Richard and Emily walked in, calm yet commanding. Gasps filled the room as the billionaire himself took the stage. "Proof?" Richard's voice boomed. "You want proof, Isabel? Then let the truth be seen. He handed the lawyer's files to the reporters. Documents, photos, letters, solid evidence, unshakable truth. The room buzzed with shock as screens lit up with images of young Emily in her mother's arms, Richard beside them. Headlines were rewritten in real time. Isabel's face turned pale. Her plan was crumbling before her eyes. Emily's voice. Then Emily stepped forward, her voice steady, despite the storm inside her. I never asked for wealth or titles. I only wanted respect, the kind every person deserves, no matter where they come from. Isabel mocked me for my simple dress, for being poor. But I've learned something important. True worth isn't measured in gold, but in character. And character is something money can't buy. The room fell silent. Cameras clicked rapidly. In that moment, Emily wasn't just an heiress. She was a voice of strength, a symbol of dignity. Isabel's flawless reporters swarmed Richard and Emily. Isabel tried to shout, to defend herself, but no one listened. She had played her game, and she had lost. Her fiancé, Alexander, who had been standing quietly at the back, finally spoke. Isabel, I can't do this anymore. You've become cruel, obsessed. We're done. He walked away, leaving Isabel standing alone, trembling with rage and humiliation. For the first time, she realized she wasn't feared or admired. She was pitied. A new beginning weeks passed. Emily grew into her role as Harrington's daughter. She attended board meetings, launched a scholarship fund for girls from poor families, and began using her platform to inspire others. People no longer saw her as the girl in the simple dress. They saw her as Emily Harrington, the woman who turned pain into power. One evening, as she stood on the balcony of the estate, Richard joined her. The city lights sparkled in the distance. I'm proud of you, he said softly. Not because you're my daughter, but because of the woman you've become. Emily smiled, her heart lighter than ever. Thank you, Father, for everything. The final twist months later, Isabel reappeared in the news. But not for triumph. She had squandered her wealth in desperate attempts to regain influence. No one trusted her. No one believed her. She had become a shadow of the woman she once was. Meanwhile, Emily stood on a stage at a charity event, speaking to hundreds. They mocked my simple dress once, she said, with a quiet smile. But that dress taught me humility, and humility gave me strength. Remember this. Never underestimate someone because of where they come from. You never know who they really are. The audience rose in applause. Cameras flashed. Social media lit up with her words. And somewhere, watching from a darkened room, Isabel's eyes filled with tears. Not of rage this time, but of regret. Because in the end, the girl she mocked had become everything she could never be.